The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. This is Michael Connor from the Early Learning Division. With a cloudy day in the northern Willamette Valley, and wishing all of you the best on this Wednesday morning. Who else from ELD is on the squad here, team?
Hi, it's Lindsay Pearson. Happy to be here. Thanks for showing up, everybody.
Hello, Gwen Baxel.
Hi, it's Teresa Waite, and I'm not on camera because I've done nothing with myself this morning.
Glad you're here, Teresa. Sorry for the slight delay there. I couldn't join as an organizer. It was making me. There was a discouraging word said, Donna. I'm just saying that. There was a discouraging word uttered. Anyway, okay, so I have some slides and we've got an agenda, and let me pull that up, which is very exciting. Donna, how are things in Harney County?
Quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing's happening. When you shut down the town, it is really quiet.
Uh-huh. Sure. I bet.
But I have to give you a little aside. Since toilet paper seems to be an issue, we've had people from Prineville coming over and they stripped Safeway of all of our toilet paper.
Oh my gosh.
And then we had people from California come up on Monday and go to Grocery Outlet, and they tried to strip the shelves of toilet paper and the owner would not let them.
Oh my goodness. My sister said she went to Walmart and they were rationing just one per person. They had somebody kind of blocking it and handing one out.
One square?
Yes. That's helpful for her and her 3 children.
Things are bad when you have 1 square per person. Use it well, kids. Okay, let's get going here. I've got a screen to share. I'm sure I do. Oh, waiting to view Teresa Waite's screen. Teresa, you want to make me the presenter?
I suppose I could do that. I didn't realize I would have to do all those things with making everyone organizer. So give me just a second.
Andy says she's on the phone. She can't get into the go-to some reason, but she wants to say hello from her at the ELD.
Great. Gwen, how are things in Eugene this morning?
They're all right. Unfortunately, we had our first COVID-19 death in Lane County. So it's not many cases, but yeah, and so it's yeah, things are a beautiful looking day, but a lot of people who are living through unusual times right now.
Yeah, that's for sure.
All
right.
Yeah.
So let's start with Gwen. I think Gwen's gonna start with just kind of a ELD big picture. And would you mind starting us off with that, Gwen?
Okay. Yeah, sure. And looking to see who all on the line. Hello, everyone. It seems like we have a great attendance today, and just wanted to start with just hope all of you are doing well. I know that as the COVID-19 kind of progresses in our state, that many of us will be impacted in a variety of ways, and so just holding all of you dear, and hope that you're well and that your family's well. And so I think as weeks go on, we're all going to be, like I said, impacted more and more in various ways. And so, and as we continue to have our communications with each other, I think it's just important for us to keep that space and to recognize that. So I think we'll get rolling. We will have an opportunity for people to share sort of what's happening in their community and a little bit later on in the updates here. So first, I think, Michael, if you would go to the next slide, please. I don't know if I can control it. And I don't know, for me, it's not full screen slides. I don't know if that's okay, or if you wanted it to be full screen. It's up to you. So I wanted to let you know what's happening at the Early Learning Division and the work that we've been doing in response to the public health crisis. And there will be a memo coming out from Miriam later today. We're trying to get it out as soon as we can. And it's in sort of response to the most recent executive order from the governor yesterday, but also with some of the updates that we've been able to kind of move through at the Early Learning Division. And so it'll include details about this. So the first that we've been working on is some exceptions to our current licensing rules as we're trying to support emergency childcare for first responders and other essential staff and employees across the state. So these allowances will sort of back off a little bit on some of the CBR. We'll be able to do some temporary sort of CBRs that go through our systems, but not necessarily through the whole federal system. So we're working on that. We're also working on some sort of lifting of some of the requirements for staff qualifications and also for the training requirements that are necessary, and just to make sure that facilities that are open and offering emergency childcare, that they have access to staff and substitute staff. And so those are the kind of the key points that we're looking at, and also looking at if we do need to support sort of like pop-up emergency childcare centers, that we also have some guidance around what the health and safety requirements would be for those spaces that might be in unusual spaces and spaces that aren't currently being used for educational or early learning purposes. So we're working through all of that with sort of our rule exception or allowances. And what we were waiting for there was the governor to actually, through the governor's executive order, to give Miriam the ability to do that with our rules during this time. So everything's in order there for us to move forward. And then with ERDC, we've been working with DHS, and we've been able to have some, I think, some great kind of changes to that during this crisis. And one of them is increasing the eligibility up to the 85% median income, which gets it up to around 250% FPL. So that'll help just kind of expand access for those essential workers that might need it. And then also removes any co-pays for parents, and also doesn't penalize, or I should say a provider would have a full reimbursement for the month regardless of attendance of children. So we're really trying to prop up the manner in which our providers who are offering emergency care are getting paid, so that they have sort of that consistent that pay. And some of those allowances with the ERDC will be for providers who aren't actually offering emergency care, but are, that we're just trying to sort of support the workforce through this crisis. So more details on that to come. Those are kind of high level. And then there are 4 surveys out right now regarding our response to COVID-19. One of the surveys is going to K-12, and we've worked with Kara Williams to develop that. And that went out yesterday, and that is asking K-12 what their capacity is to provide space and also or childcare. And at first it was focused on the birth through age 12, but I think we're getting a little bit more movement where we're able to now, not necessarily 12, but still an option, and we'll, take advantage of that. But this would be more on the school age. So more to come, but they're being surveyed right now. There's also a survey that TRI has sent out to all providers that are in our database system, Macroware. We'll be sending that link out to all of you. We just weren't able to reconcile whether all of you are actually in Macroware. We assume you are. If you're in 211, you're in Macroware and vice versa, but just wanted to make sure that all of our publicly funded programs and providers receive that survey from TRI. So please make sure if you don't receive it, asked us for it. It's asking who is available for emergency childcare. And with that survey, we're going to sort of move off of the program units calling and asking you about, your ability to provide emergency childcare. We really appreciate all of you giving that great information on the 2 surveys. One survey, and then if you said yes, you could do emergency care, you received a follow-up survey. That provided us with a ton of information. We still have all that information. We're going to reconcile that with NACRAWare, but it really helped give Miriam a lot of good information to work with the governor's office on sort of what is our capacity to be able to respond to the need for emergency childcare. So thank you for that. But we'll sort of be moving away from our our program unit survey and connect you into the bigger system. There's also a survey that is going out through the health sector to their employees. So all health sector employees are being surveyed and assessing their childcare needs. So eventually what will be happening is we'll know where the need is with the first responder childcare needs, and then we'll be able to see where we have access to emergency childcare, and 211 will be working to connect families to services. So those are the active surveys. I thought I had more, but I think that I thought I had 4, but it's just those 3, I think, that are going out. And then we're also working on guidance packets that include all these kind of shifts to the rules that would be necessary for us to fully operate emergency care. So we're having packets for the school districts. There will be some guidance for all of you as well if you are participating in emergency childcare that explains sort of the allowances under these temporary rules. And then also we're developing guidance packets for programs that are doing what we're calling like that pop-up childcare in locations that aren't currently serving children or being used for educational purposes currently. And that might be an example, might be a pop-up childcare in a hospital setting, right? Or close to a hospital in a different building. So just sort of some of the different guidance packets that we're creating. And then the other body of work that we've been working on is making sure that all providers who are participating in the emergency care response, that they have the needed supplies. These are gloves, thermometers, formula, sanitation, all of the things that are really difficult to find and get your hands on right now. We're working on having the ability to kind of purchase all of that and distribute to community. And I mentioned that to you because we haven't figured out yet where we might store those materials in community and how they would be dispersed or, at the community level. So it's not an ask at this point, but I just wanted, for all of you to be thinking about, like, is there a, location or facility that, might be good for that? I think we'll be reaching out to the early learning hubs to see if they might be able to support some of this work in the distribution of supplies in the community. So more to come on that. So I think those are sort of what we've been working on at the Early Learning Division in response to the public health crisis. So, and I know that all of you have been doing a ton at the local level. And so, Michael, I think if you go to the next slide, I think we do want to open it up for questions, but let's, do you want to go over this, Michael? Should we open it up for questions on this first, or do you want to go through?
Yeah, let's pause here for comments or questions around ELD's stance and sort of planning that we're doing. We really appreciate people letting us know. We really appreciate you all being in touch. We've gotten a lot of emails and calls, people calling to say I know that a lot of you have experienced, attendance challenges as families are staying home. Some of you have reported staffing challenges as teachers and other folks are staying home. And when you've closed, you've let us know you're closing and what your current thinking is. We were talking yesterday about something that came out that we put out on Friday, and then we were saying yesterday, wow, that seems like a long time ago Friday. So we know that things are changing quickly in your communities, and but just to pause then for questions, feel free to chat them, to type them in the question box, or if you raise your hand, we can unmute you. Love to hear from you. Just thoughts, comments. Donalda has a question. Donalda, I'm going to unmute you here. Oh, I sent you an audio pin, Donalda. You'll have to use that to get on, or you could type your question in the question box. I'll work on not touching my face, Kim. Thank you. I take just a bath in straight up bleach every morning. I think that's the best thing to do. So I'll work on that, Kim. Sean says, is there a timeline for when the government is wanting emergency childcare up and operating? We have a school district that has preschool promise that is hoping to work together. I'll say one thing about that is that I think the current geographic planning is we're starting with the Portland Metro and kind of working down the valley, but also we know that people are coordinating and communicating in your community, so that's great. And I know that some of that work is shifting off of our team, so maybe I've just made things more confusing. Over to you, Gwen.
Yeah, I think so. It's an all discussion. Let me see. It's can you repeat it? I didn't see it in the chat box.
Oh, just timeline for emergency childcare. What are we thinking?
Yeah, I think the governor would have preferred if we had everything ready to go this week. But it takes a little bit of time. And the reason I said it is because we know that there are families already being impacted by childcare's closing. One of our colleagues in the program unit, she actually was providing childcare to her sister's children yesterday because her sister is a medical assistant with 2 children under the age of 3, and her childcare provider had closed down effective, I think it was even last Friday. So we know there's a need, that's just one example. And so I think that for sites that are remaining open, I mean, I think, that's everybody's decision on their own. We do know there's a need, but I think, Donald, to answer your question is as soon as we can get this kind of up and running, and when I say up and running is we need to, we just received yesterday from the governor the ability for Miriam to move forward with the rule changes that we need to kind of now move the guidance out into the field. And so as soon as we're kind of able to implement some of those shifts in the rules to be able to open and sustain providers who are willing to offer emergency childcare, I think that's going to be like, it's sort of ASAP as soon as we can get everything lined up. And then the other piece on that is we need to wait till the data systems kind of connect in a way. Like I said, there's surveys out right now that are asking, who's willing to provide the care, and then where are the families that need the care. And so I think that it'll take us a little bit of time to kind of get all that data we need, and then kind of get 211 up and running so that they can actually be referring the families to the services in the community. So I think we have to sort of stand up the system a little bit first, but while we're waiting for that, if providers are continuing to offer care, that's, like I said, that's great, that's their choice. So I hope that answered it.
Donalda, yes, the answer to your question is yes, you can still fill out the survey. We haven't closed the survey, so feel free. We'd love to hear from you. Kathleen, go Beavers. Kathleen, are you assuming you're still open even though the campus is online only, but I haven't talked to you about that, so that's an assumption on my part. And she's asking if there's a shelter-in-place order given. What does that mean for childcare, even emergency childcare? That's a good question.
So my understanding currently we don't have a shelter-in-place in Oregon. I know that some other states have moved towards that. So if we progress, to that in Oregon, then I think we'll have to, we'll have to adjust, right, and reevaluate continually. Pretty much we've been writing a memo to providers every day since last Wednesday, trying to keep pace with all of the rapidly changing directions we've been given. So yeah, I think we just kind of keep moving. I'm not sure what the full impact would be and how we would, what we would need to do then to ensure that our essential services are operating, and for those individuals who are part of the essential services have access to care so that they can, get to work and at the hospitals or wherever those essential services are needed. It's a kind of it's different times. I mean, this is really unusual, and this is going to, test all of our systems and us in many ways.
I'm sliding down. Oh, okay. So Kathleen, you're not open because the school district is closed, and you decided to follow the school district. Okay. Okay, that's good to know. So if you are doing that, feel free to give us a shout. We're doing our best to kind of keep track, and I'll say something about that in a little bit. But yeah, Kathleen, I mean, no criticism involved there. I mean, you get your food from the district, so what are you going to do? There's only so many times you can serve PB&J. So I get that. We're just curious and wondering, like you are, how people are handling this situation. Maybe that's a good transition into talking about the memo that just came out, if that's okay with the team.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably saw, because you either get the emails or we sent them to you or both, that Head Start sent out some guidance around wages and benefits. And there's some takeaways that I think are worth taking away. One is that in general, you're following local directions on closure. So right now, the ELD's stance from the governor is let's try to stay open because we don't want the whole system to come to a screeching halt. We want parents to have access to childcare so they can do the work that they need to do. Many people have been laid off or furloughed or whatever, and so those that need it are probably are pretty high priorities if they're able to go to work. So we want people to go to work and get their incomes and do the stuff that they're doing. So currently our stance is try to stay open. But we, like I said, we also recognize that attendance is down and staff issues are a problem and so forth. So, and like Kathleen points out, we know that you're integrated with lots of other systems that are impacted. So if you can't operate, you can't operate. And the next thing in the guidance from Head Start is to make sure that you're continuing to pay wages and benefits if you're shutting down. So we're continuing our grants to you. And so we want to strongly remind you that we're expecting wages and benefits to happen for people. And the fact that you're shutting down physically doesn't mean that people can't do work. So that's another part of that. The third thing that is in the memo is requesting that we continue to engage with families and deliver services. So that's a lot to take in, but we also, I know that some people have called people in to do deep cleaning, but also we did a little brainstorming around what services to families might look like remotely. So I'm just going to show you that list, and you've probably got ideas too, but there's nothing to stop people from doing daily health checks. So how are the kids doing? That's a phone call or a Kick, Snapstagram, or whatever the kids are using these days. Texting. I know that TS Gold has a communicate with families remotely mobile app, something. I'd really recommend people check out Vroom. You can get Vroom kits mailed to you, and you can distribute them to people's porches and doors, or you can ask them to go online. Ready Rosie is the new family engagement system through TS Gold. Not everybody uses TS Gold, but most of you do. And more from TS Gold, they have shared sort of tip sheets on how to share activities. So I'll show you what that looks like. So you're in the platform, and then it just kind of walks you through how do you share activities with with parents. And that's either through printing and mailing, or some parents are, you've set up a mobile access for parents to be involved. So there's some variety of strategies there. And they did a similar how-to for learning games. And then they also sent out this, what they call a Healthy at Home, a toolkit for supporting families. And I'll just click on that for you real quick. It has a little video here, and then some ideas around this very sweet video from Ready Rosie about this mom counting with her kiddo, and so forth. So that's kind of for parents to sort of try to think about what it means to stay home with kids, and how to make sense of all this. And I'll stop talking, but I'll also say I just really want to encourage you that for many of your families, you are the kind of the lifeline to the community. And so, keeping that contact, keeping that communication, keeping that support is really crucial. So being closed is one thing, but there's still Head Start families, and you're still the person who's working with them. So keep that up. Thoughts on any of that? Other ideas for what continued services might look like? Feel free to.
Hey, Michael.
Michael,
Yeah,
can I?
Yeah, go ahead, Gwen.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to, thanks, Michael. I just wanted to sort of clarify, just in sort of that, that the ELD, we don't have a stance on this. What we're doing is the ELD is responding to the governor's executive orders around needing emergency childcare for first responders and essential workers in our state. And so that's sort of, ELD is, we're responding to that executive order. And I just want to make it really clear that we understand that all of you are making, you have to make individual decisions regarding your closure, and we respect those decisions. These are complex choices, right, around taking into account your own safety, the safety of your staff, operational challenges, the resilience of your business, or or if it's an individual provider, their business, and also the need to meet the needs of children and families who are still required to work. So I just wanted to let you know that we don't have a stance. We have an ELD response to the governor's executive order around how we sustain emergency childcare through this crisis. So, and anything that you are doing, all of you are doing in support of that, we really appreciate it. So, okay, Michael, now we can, I think, open it up to hear what great things people are doing in community.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that I've heard a lot of really amazing things, and I in talking with folks and hearing about what they are currently doing, Albina has sent me all of their learning stuff that they're sending home to families, and I am more than happy to collect any activities or things that you guys are doing that you're willing to share out to other programs. And I can collect those and redistribute them. Albina has given me permission to share all of their learning activities, and they're based on, which, go ahead.
It's Teresa. Sorry, Lindsay. I was wondering if this would be something that if I can get these things, maybe we could make them available on our portal.
Yeah.
So that our programs can access them at will. That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would love.
I think we lost you a little bit there, Lindsay.
Need help kind of finding these activities and ideas. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, good.
Actually, Lindsay, I can hear you fine. Michael, I think you might actually be losing some bandwidth.
Okay. Yeah, more and more every day.
Because as far as I've heard, most folks who are closed are still offering those essential services and checking with families. So let's open it up.
Suzanne, did you want to jump in? I see your hands raised. Feel free.
I just, I think I sent an update for us. We're self-quarantining here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, good. Yeah, our whole staff has to self-quarantine, and we're waiting on a test, which is, that's daunting. But in the interim, all of my staff, God bless every single one of them, are working from home. We've got trainings online. We've got team meetings going on, and all our families are being contacted, children's materials for the kids to work with the parents on or in place and so on. So it's lovely to see that we can do that and that we can still stay in close contact with our families because that is so important. And my staff has been tremendously strong in this self-quarantine situation, which you can imagine is unpleasant to say the least. But we are just expressing our love and our support and encouragement. We're also tracking illness on families, obliquely, just checking in with families to see what's going on there, and also monitoring our whole staff on a daily basis. So that's what we're up to. Thank you.
Thanks, Suzanne. Appreciate it. And there's some lovely comments in the chat box here from Sean and Ava. Thank you. Great. Anything else on this item? Okay. Hearing nothing.
I heard one thing on the Office of Head Start webinar yesterday that I thought was really great. And Dr. Bergeron had said that she heard of or saw teachers were video recording themselves reading stories and then texting those videos out to their families so that kids could have access to seeing their teacher and hearing their voice. And I thought that was a really wonderful idea. So I just wanted to share that.
Oh, that's terrific. Thank you, Lindsay. Okay.
Michael, I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of comments that are coming into like the question section, and I'm wondering, I'm struggling to open that up fully. I get it just really tiny, but I'm wondering if maybe someone who can, because maybe for those who aren't able to, they might just be on phone, maybe we could read some of those off, because it looks like there are some comments in there around what programs are doing. I just can't access them fully.
I also can't access them. They're like a 4-point font on my, what's the thing about that big?
Okay, so Ava, staff are working unless they're high risk and choose to stay home, calling families, check on well-being and any unmet needs. And she points out there's lots of school lunch programs going on in our community, so we're boxing up food and diapers and taking them to families. Terrific. Thank you, Ava. And then Leslie, continuing to support families with information about services and educational activities. UCAN from Sean is doing phone conferences, sharing resources and activities, and posting many, many resources on Facebook. And that's what I see. Suzanne made her comment out loud. That's great. So that's what I got. So you can continue to, if you think of something or you haven't had a chance, feel free to type those in, and we'll circle back to that by the end of the webinar. But we'll put a pause on that topic and we'll move on to talk about salaries. And I don't know who's going to kick this off. Is that Gwen?
Before we go, Michael, were you going to share the Early Learning Division website with all of the documents?
Sure, that's a great idea.
There, the resource.
Yeah. Let me, yeah, so in the slide deck, yeah, let me just, come on, buddy. Open link, there we go. Okay. So the Early Learning Division has a website, with resources and that link is linked in. It's easy to find on our webpage because it's right there, and then we've also linked it in the slides. And there's links to resources and kind of a restatement of our approach right now. And yeah, this is a great place to go for resources and interim guidance, as we say.
Can you click on the 4 providers? Because I think that that's where there's, I was really surprised with just how the documents in there are kind of stacking up. So these are all of the survey there is, you can take that. That is the ones that TRI is sending out. Like I said, you'll be getting that through email from us as well, but this has our frequently asked questions, and then also any of the updates and the provider, like our memos that have come out of the early learning division starting on February 27th. And as you can see, then it was like the 12th, the 13th, the 16th, and we'll have another one out to you today. So if you, haven't, been receiving these in another way, just know that this is a kind of a landing page where you can find all of the documents that have been sent out. Thank you, Michael.
Yep. Okay, so let's talk about salaries. Gwen, would you mind just recapping the ELC meeting?
So turn off my mute. Sure. I think, one thing is, it's hard to have during this time to think about celebrating, but I just really want to hats off to the Oregon Head Start Association, all of you, for the advocacy work that happened. And Donna, if you want to speak to that that got us to the place where we're at today with some newly adopted salary guidelines for OPK lead teachers and now the inclusion of teacher assistants as well. So this is exciting for Oregon. And as Miriam says, we sometimes change one problem for a different problem, right? And so, yay, we have salary guidelines, and I know that for many of you, it's going to be challenging for us to implement these guidelines in the first year, but we really feel like we've set sort of put the stake in the ground where we need to be heading towards, and so we can talk more about that. But I wanted Donna to give you an opportunity if you wanted to say anything about the guidelines or where we're at with salary.
Well, I know that this has been coming for a long time, and it's been an evolution because it just didn't happen overnight. The legislature always has looked at Head Start, OPK, as when they allocate dollars, they want kids to be in seats. And so there's an assumption that each dollar or each allocation nets a number of slots. So we started talking to the legislature 2 sessions ago and mentioned that we can't keep staff because we take them, we train them, and then they leave us to go to either preschool promise or school districts. And that really is not a fiscally sound practice, and that our programs are always in flux, so it's not healthy for us either. And it took the next session where they kind of got it. And then when Preschool Promise was rolled out and they saw the salaries for Preschool Promise, it really was a stepping stone or a jumping stone actually for us to move to say, we are now losing teachers to Preschool Promise, and we need to make sure that our teachers are paid at an equivalent level. And they actually believed us. And so they allocated the money from this the SSA dollars to salaries not attached necessarily to an increase in the number of children, although they would like that. So we were successful in the short session last time, but in the long session, one of the things that we were told through Justin met with the legislators, and they told him that we would be more successful instead of just asking straight for salaries, but to say that we're going to increase the cost per child that will net an available amount of money to increase the salaries. So that's what kind of the direction that we're going. And I think we're in a very amazing place now where early learning educators are being recognized as valuable and educated, and that they should be paid equivalently.
Thanks, Donna. Yeah, it's been a long road. So just to kind of recap the council meeting on Monday, the Early Learning Division, we presented 2 different options to the council. One, which was a statewide salary scale or salary guidelines, and then the other was a 2-zone where the Multnomah, Clackamas, and Washington County would have been carved out as sort of a different different zone and have different salary guidelines. So the council did accept our recommendation on a statewide, and if you haven't read the memo and sort of the recommendation, we can send that to you. It is in the Early Learning Council packet that is posted online. And one of the things that was challenging, and I just wanted, before I go in, hats off, Michael did a lot of work on developing the recommendations and also sort of really looking at the data, and also I really appreciate, I know that there was a lot of stakeholder engagement with all of you as well. So thank you, Lindsay, I know that you were organizing some of that as well. So what happened for us is the original guidelines that were used for Preschool Promise and then the new legislation included teacher assistants, which is, yay, a win. What we found was, as we were looking at least this was my experience, in looking at developing lead teacher assistant salaries, what it did is it sort of, like, to ensure that lead or assistant teachers had sort of like a step into the lead teacher salary guidelines, it sort of compressed a little bit some of the minimum salary requirements for our teachers. So if you're looking at this, it's hard, it's sort of, if you look at the minimum salary for lead teachers with a child development associates or registry step 8, it says $32,000 or $18 an hour. And then if you were to look down in the teacher assistant where it says registry step less than 7, $32,000, and but down to the 21 or minimum wage, I mean, that would be up to your salary structures within your agency. So you can see where something's got a little bit compressed, and so it actually sort of adding the teacher assistant sort of drove up some of the minimum requirements for our lead teachers when we went through this second round of adopting salary guidelines. So what you would see, and we've received some feedback, is that the minimum salaries for teachers are higher than what they previously were for Preschool Promise lead teachers. And so I just want to let you know that this is kind of where we saw some of that compression ourselves, and how do we sort of create kind of like a stepping into hopefully teacher assistants, moving into lead teachers, and kind of having the salary guidelines sort of kind of have a continuum. So that being said, I wanted to, we have been receiving feedback, concerns about we won't be able to hit these requirements or, the minimum requirements. This will, create a lot of disruption within our salary or our wage structure within our agency. And so I like I said, we're trading one problem for another problem. And I just, any technical assistance that we can provide, please reach out to us to help you as you're working through your RFA. And also we, I don't want to put it out there, widely, like we really want to move the needle, right? That's the goal. And I think we can with these dollars. But there might be circumstances within your agency that you're just not able to meet the minimum requirements. And so we will have an option for a waiver, because we recognize that it might take us a few years of increased funding to really be able to move our whole program forward with these salaries. So there will be a waiver option, but with that waiver would require, we want to know why. We'll kind of be getting in your stuff a little bit. I just want to let you know up front, because we want to understand, and we want to be able to then tell the story and work with the Head Start Association and telling that story to legislators on some of the challenges that we face. around meeting the guidelines so that we can, you know, either think about other funding solutions and different things. But I just want to let you know, like, we need the data, we need to understand so we can tell the story. So I'll leave it at that. And also in the RFA, you know, there's the $2,600 additional for every slot, with the first priority being, you know, to really move the mark for teachers and teacher assistants. And then, you know, you're able to use some funds for, if there's you know, any of that leftovers, you're trying to move the mark, you can use it for other salary retention strategies. So just use us for technical assistance. One of the big pluses, I think, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed, and maybe you all know more, but for those that are federally funded as well, you will be having an increase to your base funding through the feds as well. You'll have the cost of living allocation, the COLA, and then you'll also be receiving some quality improvement dollars, which will, you know, it was looking from what I heard to be around a 4.6 increase to your federal grants, to your base funding. So the timing of that, I'm hoping it lines up well so that you can be considering that also as you're kind of moving forward and trying to implement the new salary guidelines. So I'll kind of open that up to questions, or Lindsay and Michael, other.
We do have a question in the question box from Kim Brown saying, how long do we have to get to the target, and will we get more money?
Good question. Yeah, the target, I don't have the answer though, Kim, I'm sorry. You know, hopefully we'll be able to get to the target, you know, soon, but that, as you said, depends on our funding, right? So it's all dependent on the funding. So there isn't right now, like in 5 years, boy, wouldn't that be a great strategy for us if we, you know, we were required to get there over 5 years, that would mean that they would be required to be funded, right? So, but we don't have a strategy in place that is like saying you have to move here by a certain time. What we're really trying to do is make sure that as many of our teachers and teacher assistants are able to receive the minimum requirements, and then we're going to, you know, continue to kind of hopefully move the mark over the years.
Yeah, this is Michael.
I don't know if that's the answer, Kim.
I like the question, Kim. You know, the legislation says that teacher and assistant salaries should be comparable to kindergarten lead and assistant teacher salaries to the extent practical. So practicable, I think, is what they said, which is always a tricky word for me. So that's an interesting word. It doesn't say convenient or to the extent easy. It says practically what can you do. And so one exercise I would encourage you all to do, which is to say, well, what if you just put all of the 2,600 in teacher and assistant teacher as an exercise salaries? What would that do to your minimums and your average? And then if you are going to do something different with transportation, what would that do? So sort of work down the list of priorities and just fool around with that to see what it is. You're the right people to figure that out. We're happy to help and work through and talk about different scenarios and like that. And yeah, that's the challenge, and we appreciate you all taking on the challenge. It's going to make a huge difference for our teachers and assistant teachers.
Until we get another question, I'll jump in, and just as you're looking over the salary table, the guideline table, this is being inserted into the RFAs. We're doing an amendment to the RFAs right now to incorporate the new timelines for submittal and also for fully executed grant agreements. And we're also going to replace the old salary guidelines with this. So this will be in an updated, amended version of the RFA. One of the things I wanted to kind of point out is, and this is from feedback from the field, that it was really challenging with the original guidelines because it was all based on sort of like a salary, you know, like, and it was confusing. Is that a 10 months? Is that a 12 months? You know, my teachers only work this many months, mine work year round. And so this is where the team did a great job of looking at, you know, most teachers in the K-12 system are on a 10-month contract. And so when we were looking at comparing salaries and trying to get to, you know, parity or comparable, that we use the data from K-12 as a 10-month salary, and then made sure that you had an hourly equivalent so that you could use this within your salary scales and structures that you have at the local level.
Okay, so more on that later, and feel free to reach out with your individual questions or challenges or excitements around that. And we'll just sort of put a pause on that conversation. That's going to be more conversing as we go. And we just want to shift gears a little bit. Let me double check with our team here that we're ready to shift gears. But we've got more about the upcoming expansions and enhancements. And specifically, as you know, we've been working with our partners at the Research Institute at Western Oregon University to develop some guidance and resources and technical assistance on implementing extended duration. And so we want to turn it over to our colleague, Nathan. Nathan, I'll let you introduce yourself, but he is going to talk with us about the extended duration playbook, and somebody is going to make you the presenter. I can do that. I think I can.
Great. Michael, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Let me
Awesome.
Make presenter. Here it comes, Nathan. I'm sure I want to make you the presenter. I'm more than 90% confident.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for having me on today. I am really excited to share what I've gotten done on the playbook so far. So let me pull up this PowerPoint slideshow that I've got. And awesome. Are you able to see the slideshow?
Yeah, we can see the presenter view. We can't see you, but we can see the presenter view of the slideshow.
Okay, let me minimize that. Whoops. All right. Excuse me while I'm trying to fumble with this technology. Normally I'm pretty good with it. All right, we're just going to pull that up. So my name is Nathan Weingartner. I work here at the Research Institute at Western Oregon University. Basically, what I've been tasked to do is pull together what we've done for the using the final report from our 2018-2019 evaluation of the pilot program for extended duration, and put our findings into a playbook to kind of simplify that report that ended up being, I believe it was 60+ pages, into something a little bit more digestible and something that we feel would be really helpful. Just as kind of a backstory on me really quickly, I've got 7 years of experience working at a Head Start here in Marion-Polk County, and then for the last 5 years I've been over at the Research Institute. So I do have some Head Start experience working in a variety of different positions. So when Michael approached our agency, I was really excited to be able to help with this, and I had done some of the class observations that were included in the final report. So that being said, what I did is we broke the final report down into 3 different sections: planning and preparation, pre-service and staffing, and then implementation, staff support, and parent engagement is kind of the last one right there. Each one of those gathers data from what we learned in the final report and puts them into pretty concise language that includes some best practice suggestions for each one of the different subsections within it. The report will have some different graphics, example staffing schedules, example class schedule that will be included in there, and also a list of different resources that we've found that we think will be helpful, that a grantee could use as they desire. And so those are, like I said, down to the last bullet point there is recommendations and resources. So the next thing that we were playing with with Michael is to develop a T&TA plan. So I'm planning on being involved in the monthly webinars that you are having, just as a short check-in to see how everything's going with the playbook, if there are questions around that. Additionally, due to the pandemic that we're currently facing, I was planning on being at the April 1st to the 3rd conference, but obviously that's been canceled. So we'll have some work groups as needed. And also we will have, when additional conferences are available, I'll be attending some of those. In addition to that, we have face-to-face consultations available for any grantees who are interested in them. We do have limited capacity to do those, but we will have those available for those who want to participate in a face-to-face dialogue with us. We really want to establish essentially a community practice, which you already have with your monthly meetings, but also with the education specialists and other specialists that you have, or ed specialists that you have at each one of your grantees or agencies, to try to get them to talk together and to share their best practices, because what we have created here doesn't explain everything, and in reality we found that basically people learn best from their peers, and we want to be able to share that peer learning in the best possible format. So we'll be opening up opportunities for peers to share what they've learned with other peers in their sphere. So the last thing, just to kind of give you a heads up, the playbook is in its kind of final stages of development. We are going to send over a final draft over to Michael and ELD to have one last look, and then I will be sending it over to our digital product specialist to have her take a look at it and make it into a document that looks a little nicer than a Word document. So that'll be something I'm really looking forward to, and that grantee version will be out as soon as possible. We're hoping here in the next few weeks, just because we're going to give her time in order to make it look great. So that's what I have available for everyone today, but I also wanted to know if anyone has any questions about the playbook or anything else. I would be happy to answer some of those.
This is Michael. While people are thinking about that, I'll just say that in April, we're planning for this webinar, we're planning a segment around the financing and staffing of extended duration. So we'll be previewing that a little bit, maybe some activities, or soliciting some experts to come and share their experiences around the finances and the staffing. One of the cool things about the playbook is that it's organized kind of chronologically. So we want to talk with you and work with you on finances and staffing first, because that's probably what you're thinking about more than, for example, teacher-child interactions and extended duration. We just want to help you and develop your thinking around finances and staffing for extended duration, and also that can impact in a positive way your applications as you think about how you're going to show on your application that you've got a good staffing plan and a good budget. So that's the topic for next month. Nathan will be back, and if you are super interested in sharing your experience, or you've got questions or concerns around finances and staffing, feel free to let us know, and we'll work with you to integrate that into our discussion next month.
Absolutely. Well, great. Thank you for letting me come today. I apologize for not having my webcam on immediately. But yeah, and thanks for letting me share the slides. And I look forward to sharing the playbook with everyone. I'm actually really excited about it. I think this is going to be a great resource to use. So thank you, Michael.
You bet. Thank you, Nathan, so much. Really appreciate it. And with that, I think, yeah, there is no specialist conference. There is a, oh, that's wrong. There is a webinar on the 1st. Tell 3 friends. There's a webinar on the 1st. We've added that instead of going to Eagle Crest. We can all be online with each other for an hour. I know, great trade-off. Lindsay, Gwen, Teresa. Teresa, we haven't heard from you about grantee stuff. So would you like to check in with us, please and thank you?
It's funny, Michael. I just sent you a message asking if you were going to let me talk.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's all right. Hi, gang. It's Teresa, your friendly neighborhood grant specialist. And I just want to let you know that even though I'm working from home right now, I am surrounded by dogs and approving claims in EGIMS. So I can do EGIMS remotely. I can answer questions remotely. I can do almost everything I could do from my desktop at work. So never fear, I'm still hanging out and working for you.
Right. And
Teresa's struggling through not having 2 screens, though. The laptop is pretty small.
Very much so. Very much a problem. But I'm just learning how flexible I can be, especially, again, tiny laptop, dogs on all sides.
Teresa, what are some of the questions that have been coming in? Because one of the things we want to emphasize is, even though we've got a crisis going on, there are no, all problems are welcome. So just because your problem is not related to COVID-19 doesn't mean we want to help you. So if you've got budget problems or deliverables or reports or where's that form, it's on the dashboard. It's in the Dropbox.
You mean the portal?
It's in, yeah. But other, feel free to chime in. We like to hear from you, and we're open for business.
Yeah, because I'm actually not hearing a lot from folks, but what I am hearing is that everyone is trying really hard to stay connected so that they can be of use where possible in all of this, and that is so very much appreciated. I also did hear from a couple of programs, not just OPK, but of the other programs that I also oversee on the grant side of things, that your staff are volunteering, or not volunteering, but they're offering to help out with childcare. So once we can get all that organized, that's going to be so very much appreciated by everyone. That's about all, though. I'm not hearing a lot from the field right now. I'm just approving claims as they come in, just to make sure the money's still moving.
Kim Brown put in the chat box, thank you, Teresa, with an exclamation point.
Yeah, exactly.
I really appreciate all that you do.
Well, thank you all.
Okay, so again,
I also just wanted to say, just as we are not necessarily coordinating the emergency childcare efforts at this time, we are still available to help you and talk through any challenges you feel like you're having, or any concerns or anxieties around that. We're here to talk to you when you're fearing for your staff, or when you're trying to figure out your application stuff. And so just, we are still very much available to you, as are your Region 10 specialists and so on. So we want to be involved, and we want to be helpful. So don't hesitate to send an email or send a phone call or whatever you need.
yes, and if you're looking for like a visual on the kind of work that Teresa's doing, I can tell you that she's on it. She is on it. She gets a lot of help. She gets a lot of support. And yeah, that's the situation.
Yes, this is true.
That's the situation with Teresa. All right. Well, we're going to sign off.
Thank
Be
you.
in touch. Stephanie, I see your question, but you left. So yes, like Gwen said, we're working on the emergency childcare, and we'll be in touch with our colleagues will be in touch as that system gets rolled out. Anyway, be in touch. Be well, and we'll see you in a month for sure, and talk to you sooner, I'm sure.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye all.